Before we begin, let us ask, what country are you watching this from, and what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments below. We want to know how far this story is reaching, because what you're about to hear will shake you to your core. Imagine this: a highly respected black female police captain in full uniform wrongfully arrested in public by a younger white officer from her own department. Not only that, but the arrest? It was a setup. This story isn't just about one woman. It's about power, pride, and the shocking truth behind a badge. So buckle up, because what happens next will make you question everything about justice. It was a warm Wednesday afternoon when Captain Maya Freeman stepped out of her unmarked police car and into the sunlight, her boots hitting the pavement with confidence. She had just wrapped a long meeting downtown. Budget talks, community patrol schedules, disciplinary hearings. It was all part of her role as one of Central City's highest-ranking officers. At 39, Maya had spent nearly 2 decades earning the respect of her peers and her city. Her reputation was impeccable. Her presence commanded attention. But even a decorated badge wouldn't protect her from what was coming. Needing a quick break before heading back to the precinct, she pulled into the small strip mall where her favorite convenience store sat, a modest little shop run by Mr. Arjun Desai, a kind older man who always kept a stash of her favorite granola bars behind the counter. She'd stopped here countless times, chatted about the neighborhood, exchanged community updates. It was the kind of routine that felt safe, familiar. As she stepped inside, a slight shift in the air tugged at her instincts. The usual friendly buzz seemed subdued. Something wasn't right. Still, Maya brushed it off. She grabbed a bottle of water and a snack and made her way toward the register. Mr. Desai greeted her with his usual polite smile. "Good to see you, Captain Freeman," she nodded, "just grabbing something quick before heading back to the station." But as she handed over the cash, something caught her eye. Movement at the back of the store. Standing by the beverage fridge was a tall white man in uniform, arms folded, eyes locked on her with an intensity that sent a jolt of unease through her. He looked young, early 30s, clean-cut with a military posture. She didn't recognize him, and in her district that was rare. She returned his stare briefly, offering a neutral nod. He didn't respond, just kept watching. Maya finished her transaction, gave Mr. Desai a quick smile, and headed for the door. But just as her hand touched the handle, a sharp voice behind her froze her mid-step. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm going to need to see some identification." She turned slowly, her expression calm but alert. "I'm sorry?" she replied, trying to keep her tone professional. "On what grounds?" The officer stepped forward, one hand resting on the butt of his holstered weapon, the other gesturing casually. His voice dripped with suspicion. "You were acting suspiciously. I saw you handling merchandise like you were going to take it without paying. I'm going to need to see your ID now." Maya's pulse jumped, but she didn't flinch. "I'm Captain Maya Freeman, Central City PD. I just paid for my items. If you need confirmation, the store clerk can provide it." The officer didn't back down. "Badge or not, no one is above the law. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be." His tone was condescending, laced with unspoken assumptions. Maya's mind raced. Was he serious? Was this really happening? In public, in full uniform, inside a store she'd visited a dozen times? Her years of training screamed at her to de-escalate, to keep calm, to not give him a reason. But deep down, the sting was already there. She knew exactly what this was. It wasn't about a granola bar. It was about her skin, her authority, her presence. "You have no legal basis to detain me," she said firmly, her voice tight. "If you believe a crime has been committed, you're welcome to check the store's camera footage." "Turn around," he ordered suddenly. "Hands behind your back. You're under arrest for suspicion of theft." The words hit like a slap. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," he snapped. "Turn around. Now." Mr. Desai stood frozen behind the counter, eyes darting between them, clearly terrified. A couple of customers stood still near the snacks aisle, one of them pulling out their phone. Maya hesitated, her pride burning, her instincts screaming, but she turned. She felt the cold steel of the handcuffs snap tight around her wrists. As the officer, Officer Travis Harlan, she read on his badge, began escorting her outside, Maya's heart pounded. The humiliation was suffocating. Cameras were rolling, strangers were watching. A decorated officer, treated like a criminal by someone who should have been her subordinate. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every black officer who'd ever had their authority challenged because of the color of their skin. She walked in silence, her breath shallow, her eyes straight ahead. But inside, something ignited. Travis Harlan had made a mistake, a grave one, and Maya Freeman was not going down without a fight. Captain Maya Freeman could barely hear the sounds of the street over the roar in her own head as Officer Travis Harlan shoved her out of the store and toward his patrol car. The sun was still warm on her face, but it did nothing to ease the heat of humiliation that burned beneath her skin. Her wrists throbbed from the tight handcuffs, but it was nothing compared to the searing pain of being paraded like a criminal in front of a community she had sworn to protect. People turned to look, eyes widening in disbelief as they recognized her. Some fumbled for their phones, others simply stared, too stunned to react. The very presence she had built over years of service, composure, leadership, authority, was unraveling with every step she took in those cuffs. Travis didn't say a word, but the smugness in his expression said enough. He was enjoying this, every moment of it. "You're making a serious mistake," Maya said under her breath, struggling to keep her voice level. "You still have time to walk this back, Officer Harlan." He shot her a side glance, scoffing. "Is that a threat, Captain?" The way he said her title made her skin crawl, like it tasted wrong in his mouth. "Because it sure sounds like one. You think being a captain makes you untouchable?" Maya clenched her jaw, refusing to answer. He didn't want dialogue, he wanted dominance. This wasn't about suspicion, it was about control. About showing her, and everyone watching, that her rank didn't matter if her skin color didn't match his vision of authority. When they reached the patrol car, Travis yanked the door open and shoved her inside without a second of care. The slam of the door behind her was final and chilling. The inside of the squad car was cramped and stifling, the stale air thick with tension. Maya stared through the wire mesh at the front seat, struggling to process the absurdity of her situation. She had walked through this city with pride, wearing her badge with honor, mentoring young recruits, de-escalating chaos, building bridges with the community. And now she was sitting in the back seat of a squad car like a shoplifter. She watched Travis outside, casually leaning against the hood as he pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Travis Harlan, badge number 3462. I've apprehended a suspect. Black female, late 30s, identified as Captain Maya Freeman from Central City PD. Suspected theft from Desai's convenience store." The words sent a wave of nausea through her. Hearing her name reduced to suspect over the radio, knowing every patrol unit in the area would hear it, twisted her stomach into knots. It wasn't just the humiliation, it was the erasure. Years of work undone in a single false report. And worse, she knew the kind of damage that could follow. Internal investigations, gossip, media. In an instant, she had gone from role model to rumor. The drive to the precinct was silent. Travis didn't speak. Maya didn't either. Her mind was a war zone, flashes of anger, disbelief, memories of academy days, long nights on patrol, mornings coaching rookies. She had done everything right. She had played by the book. And yet, here she was, arrested by one of her own, because to him, her presence had been suspicious. When they pulled into the precinct parking lot, Maya's stomach dropped again. She had walked through these halls with authority, issuing orders, leading investigations. But now, with her hands cuffed behind her, everything felt hostile. Everything felt wrong. Travis opened the car door and yanked her out, a little too hard. She stumbled but caught herself before falling. Officers and staff inside froze when they saw her. Their expressions shifted from confusion to alarm. Whispers started instantly. "Is that Captain Freeman? What the hell is going on?" She's in cuffs. Why? No one moved to stop it. No one intervened. Travis marched her past them all like a trophy. At the booking desk, Officer Glenn Walker looked up from a pile of forms and blinked in shock. "Captain Freeman?" he said, his voice thick with confusion. Travis slammed a clipboard down. "Suspected theft. Caught her red-handed." Glenn's eyes widened. "With respect, is that accurate?" Maya opened her mouth to speak, but Travis cut in before she could. "The store clerk will confirm it. She was trying to walk out with unpaid merchandise. I don't care what rank she is. She's not above the law." Maya stared at Glenn, trying to convey through her gaze that this was wrong, that he knew her better than this. "You've known me for 10 years, Glenn. You know I wouldn't do something like this," she said softly, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. Glenn looked down at the paperwork. His hands fidgeted, betraying his own discomfort. "I don't know what's happening," he muttered, "but we'll follow protocol for now. We'll figure this out later." And just like that, the machine kicked in. Fingerprints, mugshot, processing. Every mechanical step she had once overseen from the other side of the desk she now experienced firsthand. Her fingers pressed into ink, each print a mark of degradation. The camera flash burned into her memory as her photo was snapped. She stood straight, refusing to shrink, but inside, something broke. And all the while, Travis stood off to the side, arms crossed, satisfaction radiating from his posture. He had turned a decorated black officer into a spectacle, and no one had stopped him. Yet. After the photo, Glenn approached quietly. "I'm sorry, Captain, but until this is cleared up, we have to place you in holding." Maya didn't argue. She simply nodded, jaw clenched. "Do what you have to do." The walk to the holding cells was long and cold. Every step echoed in the fluorescent-lit corridor. The steel bars ahead gleamed like a cage. Glenn opened one of the doors and gestured. Maya hesitated only briefly before stepping inside. The clink of the lock behind her was final. She sat on the narrow bench, staring at the wall. For the first time in her career, she was on the other side of the bars. Not as an officer, but as a victim. A suspect. But deep in her gut, a fire sparked. She knew Travis Harlan had crossed a line, and if he thought this was the end of her story, he was about to learn what a real fight looked like. Hours passed like days inside the cold, dimly lit holding cell. Captain Maya Freeman sat on the narrow steel bench, back straight, hands resting on her knees, every breath measured. Her uniform still clung to her with authority, but the walls around her treated her like a criminal. She could hear the muted chatter of the station outside, distant footsteps, the buzz of overhead lights. No one had come. No one had spoken her name. But Maya wasn't defeated. Not yet. She had faced worse in the field. She had faced men with guns, riots, corruption. What made this different? What made it feel more suffocating? Was that the betrayal came from within, from her own department, from someone wearing the same badge. Her thoughts twisted in a loop. What evidence had Travis faked? Who was backing him, and how deep did this setup go? But then, finally, a sound. Footsteps approaching with purpose. A familiar voice rang down the hallway, sharp and unmistakably commanding. "Where is she?" Lieutenant Naomi Bennett. Maya's pulse quickened. If anyone could break this madness, it was Naomi. The two had worked side by side for years. Naomi was a woman of few words but precise judgment, fair, fearless, and not one to suffer injustice. When Naomi appeared at the cell door, her blue eyes were narrowed, her frame stiff with controlled fury. She took in the sight of Maya behind bars for one long, heavy moment. "What the hell is going on?" she asked, the question aimed at Glenn Walker, who hovered nearby, clearly uncomfortable. Glenn stammered, "Lieutenant, Officer Harlan brought her in, said he caught her stealing from Desai's store, the paperwork." "Spare me," Naomi cut in coldly. "Get her out, now." Glenn hesitated. "But the charges haven't been—" "I said get her out." Her tone brooked no argument. With trembling hands, Glenn fumbled for his keys and unlocked the cell door. The clink echoed like a spark of hope. Maya stood slowly, never breaking eye contact with Naomi. There was no embrace, no warm reunion, just a quiet exchange of trust and anger unspoken. Naomi turned sharply and led her down the corridor, Glenn trailing behind like a ghost. Officers glanced up as they passed, some wide-eyed with confusion, others pretending not to notice. When they reached Naomi's office, she shut the door firmly behind them. The small room, cluttered with case files and whiteboards, felt safer than the rest of the precinct. "Sit," Naomi said, motioning to the chair across from her. Maya obeyed, folding her arms across her chest, eyes burning but steady. Naomi sat, leaned forward, and spoke with the precision of someone who didn't waste time. "Did you steal the bracelet?" Maya almost laughed. "No, I didn't steal anything. Harlan set me up." Naomi studied her face. A long pause stretched between them, thick with tension. Then Naomi nodded. "I believe you." Maya exhaled slowly, tension releasing from her shoulders. Naomi continued, "You've never once given me a reason to doubt you. But Harlan, he's had complaints before, quiet ones, especially from officers of color. I always knew there was something off about him. But this," her voice dropped, "this is calculated." Maya nodded. "He was already at the store when I arrived, watching me like he was waiting for something. And Mr. Desai, he looked scared, like he was coached." Naomi's jaw clenched. "Then we need proof, solid proof, something we can take to internal affairs that'll stick." Maya leaned in. "The store had cameras. If we can get that footage—" "I already submitted a request," Naomi interrupted. "But if Harlan's covering his tracks, he's probably already tampered with it." Maya frowned. "Then we go deeper. We talk to Desai. We dig into the evidence chain. We find out who logged the complaint, when it was filed, everything." Naomi nodded. "You won't be doing it alone." Just then, the door burst open. Travis Harlan stood there, face tight with anger, eyes flicking between them. "What's going on in here?" he demanded. "She's a suspect. You can't just pull her out." Naomi stood slowly. "You're interrupting a closed-door discussion, officer." Travis took a step forward. "I have formal charges. This isn't up for debate. She stole—" "You need to leave," Naomi said evenly. "Now." "You're siding with her?" Travis sneered. "A suspect? A thief?" Naomi stepped forward, eye to eye with him now. "I'm siding with the truth. If you have a problem with that, take it to the chief." Travis looked like he wanted to fight back, but the fire in Naomi's gaze was impenetrable. He finally turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Silence fell. Naomi turned to Maya. "He's going to come at you harder now." "I know," Maya said, voice calm. "But he doesn't know I'm coming for him, too." Naomi leaned across the desk, voice low. "You want to beat him? Don't play his game. Build your case. Get the proof. If he's as sloppy as I think, there'll be something he missed." Maya nodded. "Then we start with the store. If Desai talks, we have our first crack in the wall." "Good," Naomi said. "I'll work on tracking the unedited footage. You, talk to the clerk. Get him to flip." "And if he won't?" Maya asked. Naomi's eyes narrowed. "Then we remind him obstruction is a crime." As Maya rose from her seat, the fire in her chest no longer burned with humiliation, but with focus. The narrative had been hijacked, her name smeared, her power stripped, but now she had allies, a plan, and most importantly, purpose. Travis Harlan had drawn first blood, but Maya Freeman wasn't done fighting. She was just getting started. The next morning, the city air was still crisp with early spring chill when Captain Maya Freeman and Officer Elijah Brooks pulled up to the jewelry store nestled between a rundown laundromat and a shuttered nail salon. The streets were quiet, but Maya's heart wasn't. It pounded with tension, frustration, and a deep hunger for answers. The humiliation from yesterday still clung to her skin, but now it was covered by a sharper layer of resolve. As she stepped out of the car, every detail from the arrest played back in her mind. The cold eyes of Travis Harlan, the whispering crowd, the metallic sting of the handcuffs. But most of all, she remembered the look on Mr. Arjun Desai's face, uneasy, withdrawn, like a man carrying a secret too heavy for his conscience. "You think he'll talk?" Elijah asked, adjusting his jacket as they crossed the sidewalk. "He'll talk," Maya said, jaw tight. "Because if he doesn't, he's already complicit." The bell above the door chimed as they stepped inside. Mr. Desai, seated behind the counter, looked up, and his face immediately drained of color when he saw Maya. He stood abruptly, eyes darting toward the back of the store like he might bolt through it. "Captain Freeman!" "I thought—" "You thought I'd be locked up?" Maya asked, voice calm but razor-sharp. "We need to talk." "I already spoke to the police," Desai replied quickly, hands trembling slightly as he wiped them on a cloth. "I told them everything I know." "Then tell us again," Elijah said, stepping beside Maya. "And this time, leave out the lies." Desai swallowed hard. "Please." "I didn't mean for it to go this far. He told me what to say. Officer Harlan came in last week. He said there was a missing bracelet and that he needed me to file a report. He said it was part of a bigger investigation." Maya narrowed her eyes. "He told you to report a theft that never happened?" "Yes," Desai whispered. "He said it would be handled, that I wouldn't get in trouble. I didn't ask questions. I thought maybe it was internal affairs stuff. I didn't know he would use it to arrest me," Maya finished, her voice suddenly ice-cold. Desai nodded miserably. "I'm sorry. I didn't know it would be you. I didn't want trouble." "You already have trouble," Elijah said, stepping forward. "Because falsifying a police report? That's obstruction. Lying to officers? That's a criminal offense." "Please," Desai begged. "I'll cooperate. I'll give a statement, whatever you need. Just don't let him destroy my store." Maya looked at him for a long moment, anger still simmering in her chest, but she held it back. Desai might have been cowardly, but he wasn't the mastermind. "Then get ready to make it official," she said. "You're coming to the station with us." As they escorted Desai out, Maya's phone buzzed. It was a message from Naomi Bennett. "Footage is edited. Key moments are missing." "He got to it." Maya cursed under her breath. Of course Harlan had already tampered with the footage. That's what this was about. Control the story, destroy the evidence, silence anyone who might speak. But now they had Desai. A witness. A real crack in the wall. "Naomi says the security footage is incomplete," Maya told Elijah as they drove. "The key moments, the ones where I supposedly stole something, they're gone." "Then he's definitely hiding the original," Elijah replied. "Only question is, where?" Maya hesitated, then said, "His house." Elijah turned toward her, brows raised. "You think he took it home?" "He wouldn't leave it at the precinct. Not something this risky. He needs control, total access. It's the only place he'd feel safe tampering with the raw file." Elijah thought for a moment, then nodded. "We break in tonight." "We're not just breaking into a house," Maya reminded him. "We're breaking into a cop's house, a corrupt one who already has a gun and no hesitation to use it. If we get caught, then we're finished," Elijah said bluntly. "But if we don't try, we lose anyway." That night, under the cover of darkness, they pulled up 3 blocks from Travis Harlan's suburban home. The neighborhood was quiet, lit only by porch lights and the occasional flicker of a TV behind curtains. They parked out of sight and moved through backyards and alleys until they reached the rear fence of Harlan's house. A 2-story colonial, with neat hedges and a pristine lawn, the kind of house that masked rot behind its perfection. "Back door," Elijah whispered, pointing to the kitchen entrance. "No cameras visible." Maya nodded. Her pulse quickened as they approached, adrenaline sharpening every movement. Elijah worked the lock quickly, and within seconds they were inside. The air was still, the home sterile and silent. They crept through the hallway, past family photos and awards on the wall. Officer of the Month, commendations, framed American flags, a shrine to the public image of a man who was anything but honorable. "Office should be upstairs," Maya whispered. They moved with quiet urgency, reaching a door near the end of the hall. Inside it was just as she expected. bookshelves, a desk, file cabinets, and a small locked drawer. Elijah knelt and worked the lock. A minute later, he held up a flash drive. Got it. But before they could breathe, a loud crash echoed downstairs, the front door slamming shut. Voices. Heavy footsteps. "He's home!" Maya hissed. "Move!" They dashed back through the hallway, hearing Harlan's voice barking commands into his radio. "Two suspects, armed, fleeing the scene. Engage if necessary." They hit the backyard as floodlights flared on. "Go!" Elijah yelled, ducking behind a car. Maya sprinted to the driver's side, bullets tearing through the night behind them. They dove into their vehicle as gunfire shattered the rear window. Tires screeched. They peeled away, hearts pounding. Maya gripped the wheel tight, every nerve on fire. "We got it," Elijah said, breathless. "Let's pray it's the original." Maya didn't respond. Her mind was focused. The game had changed. Travis Harlan had declared war, but now she was coming for him, with proof, with truth, and with fire. They didn't stop driving until they were miles outside the city limits, the car bumping along a gravel road leading to Maya's aunt's secluded cabin nestled deep in the woods. The place hadn't been used in years, but it was safe. Off-grid, quiet, and most importantly, invisible to anyone who might be tracking them. The stolen flash drive lay on the dashboard between them, silent but potent like a weapon waiting to be drawn. Maya's hands trembled as she parked behind a thicket of pine trees, headlights off. The adrenaline hadn't faded. It was still buzzing in her limbs, making her movements jerky. Elijah jumped out first, checking the perimeter, while Maya grabbed the drive and her laptop bag. The old cabin creaked as they entered, the musty air thick with dust and silence. No Wi-Fi, but Maya's mobile hotspot still had juice. She set the laptop down on the scarred kitchen table, plugged in the flash drive, and exhaled slowly. "Moment of truth," she whispered. Elijah stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes locked on the screen. The folder loaded with a low, mechanical hum. Several video files labeled only with timestamps. No names, no labels. Maya clicked on the most recent file. The footage came alive. There she was, walking into Desai's store, picking up a granola bar, heading toward the register. The image was clear, unedited, with full audio. She and Desai chatted casually. She paid in full. No theft, no hesitation, no crime. "There it is," Elijah muttered. "Everything they cut out. This clears you." Maya didn't speak. Her eyes were locked on the footage. But what shook her more than relief was the realization of how close she had come to being destroyed. One file. One man's word. That's all it would have taken to erase her years of service. She opened the upload menu and connected the drive to a cloud server. The progress bar appeared. 1%, 2%, 3%. "Come on," she murmured. They were almost there, almost safe. But just as the bar hit 40%, tires crunched outside, headlights flashed through the windows. Maya froze. Elijah moved to the door, peering through a crack in the wood. "It's him," he hissed. "Travis. Alone. Gun in hand." "He must have tracked the drive's GPS," Maya said bitterly. "He's not here to talk." She grabbed her sidearm and slid the laptop into her backpack, the upload still running. "We stall. We finish this." Travis's voice erupted from outside. "You think you're going to win, Maya? You're just making it worse for yourself." "Back away from the cabin," Elijah shouted through the door. "We have everything. It's over, Harlan." "That footage won't matter," Travis spat. "You're already a suspect. You think anyone's going to listen to you over me?" "They won't have to," Maya called out. "They'll see the truth." Travis fired a warning shot into the air. Wood splintered above the doorway. Maya dropped low, her heart hammering. The upload was at 71%. "We need to hold him back just a little longer," she whispered. Elijah nodded, checking his magazine. "When I say run, you grab that laptop and go." But Maya didn't want to run anymore. Not this time. She grabbed the flash drive and backed toward the side door. "I'll draw him away," she said. "You stay here. Make sure the upload finishes." "Maya, no. We don't have time to argue." She slipped out the side and moved through the shadows of the tree line, circling behind the cabin. Travis was pacing near the front steps, his silhouette tense, agitated, dangerous. Maya stepped out from behind the trees, gun drawn. "Travis!" He spun, gun raised. "You really don't know when to quit, do you? You set me up, you tried to bury me. And for what? Because I outrank you? Because I'm black? You don't belong where you are," he snarled. "People like you, women like you, you're not supposed to lead." "Well, guess what?" she said. "I do. And when the world sees what's on that drive, you won't be wearing that badge ever again." Travis screamed in rage and fired. Maya dove, rolling behind a log. She fired back, grazing his shoulder. He stumbled, howling, and tried to reload, but Elijah appeared at the front of the cabin, gun raised. "Drop it, Harlan!" Travis hesitated, then raised his weapon at Elijah. Too slow. A single shot rang out. Travis dropped to his knees, gasping, his gun clattering to the dirt. Elijah moved in, kicked the weapon away, and cuffed him with his own restraints. Maya rushed over, breathless, eyes on the laptop still glowing through the cabin window. The upload bar had just hit 100%. It was done. The footage was backed up, encrypted, and sent to 3 different media outlets. Even if Travis somehow walked free tonight, the story was no longer his to control. The sirens arrived minutes later, dozens of officers spilling into the clearing, guns raised until Maya stepped forward, hands up, badge still gleaming under the moonlight. "I'm Captain Maya Freeman," she said loudly. "This man, Officer Travis Harlan, has committed a felony conspiracy, falsified reports, and attempted to assassinate me to cover it up. I have the proof." The crowd parted, uncertain, until Naomi Bennett pushed her way through, eyes fierce. "We saw the footage," she said. "It's over." Maya lowered her weapon, exhaustion overtaking her. She looked at Elijah, then at the shattered man on the ground. Travis had underestimated her from the start, but now the entire department, maybe the entire city, would finally know the truth, and it would be loud. The morning after the storm was unlike any other in Captain Maya Freeman's life. The rising sun pierced through the tall windows of Central City Police headquarters as she stepped inside, no longer in handcuffs but in her uniform. Creased, worn, but proud. Her badge gleamed once again, not just with polish but with the weight of vindication. The events of the past 48 hours felt both surreal and permanent, like scars that had been burned onto her memory. Travis Harlan was in custody, his charges growing by the hour. Obstruction of justice, falsifying reports, attempted murder, abuse of power. The footage from the jewelry store had gone viral overnight. It had aired on multiple networks, passed from phone to phone, igniting a firestorm across social media. Viewers saw with their own eyes Maya paying for her items. They saw there was no bracelet, no theft, no justification. Just a proud black woman being hunted by a man wearing the same badge she once honored. And now, the world was watching. As Maya walked through the station, heads turned. Conversations stopped. Some officers gave her nods of respect, others couldn't meet her gaze. The silence was heavier than any applause. She passed the booking desk where she had once been fingerprinted like a criminal. Officer Glenn Walker, now standing behind it with his shoulders straight, shame written in every line of his face. He opened his mouth, but Maya only offered a small nod as she walked past. There were no words that could fix what had happened, not yet. In Naomi Bennett's office, the atmosphere was different. Calm, steady. Naomi looked up from her desk, eyes sharp but gentler than usual. "You did it," she said simply. "We did it," Maya corrected, settling into the seat across from her. "If you hadn't stepped in—" Naomi waved her off. "I just opened the door. You knocked it down." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of survival thick in the air. "Internal Affairs is launching a full investigation into everyone who touched that case," Naomi said finally. "Dispatch logs, evidence chain, supervisors who signed off on fake paperwork. This won't stop at Harlan." Maya nodded. "It shouldn't. Her voice was even, but her chest still ached with the strain of it all. "I keep thinking about how close he came to destroying me. Not just my job, me, my name, my identity, everything I worked for." Naomi looked at her, unwavering. "He failed. Because you didn't back down. You didn't scream. You didn't run. You let the truth speak for itself." "Barely," Maya murmured. "I had to crawl through hell just to be heard. And there are so many officers, so many people, who don't get that chance." Naomi nodded slowly. "Then we use this. We make it mean something." That afternoon, Maya stood behind the podium at a press conference held in front of City Hall. Cameras flashed as she addressed the sea of reporters. Her voice was clear, her words deliberate. "I was arrested by a fellow officer who viewed my presence as a threat, not because of my actions, but because of who I am. What happened to me was not a misunderstanding. It was a reflection of a deeper issue, a culture that too often ignores racism when it wears a uniform." She paused, the crowd hanging on her every word. "I survived because I had allies. I had people who believed me, but not everyone is so lucky. We need accountability, we need change, and we need it now." Her words echoed across headlines, radio stations, and viral clips. The mayor announced a civilian-led oversight committee that evening. Several internal commanders were placed on immediate leave, and for the first time in her life, Maya felt the tide turning. Not fast, not entirely, but turning. Later that night, back at her apartment, she sat on the edge of her bed staring at the photo on her dresser. A younger version of herself in academy blue, standing beside her late father, also a former officer. She traced the frame with her fingers and whispered, "I didn't quit, Dad." A knock came at the door. It was Elijah Brooks, holding 2 mugs of coffee and a tired smile. "Didn't think you'd be sleeping," he said. "Didn't think you'd be knocking," Maya replied, stepping aside. They sat in quiet companionship, the tension of the past few days slowly unwinding between them. "You ever think about leaving?" Elijah asked softly. "After all this?" Maya looked out the window. "Yeah, I did. But then I realized if I walk away now, he still wins. The system wins. And the next girl like me, she won't have someone to fight beside her." Elijah nodded. "Then we keep going. But maybe we make it a little less lonely for each other?" She smiled faintly. "Deal." As the city lights twinkled below, Maya felt the weight begin to lift. Her journey wasn't over. The scars would remain, but so would the strength, and the voice, and the truth. She had been framed. But now she was free, not just from the charges, but from the silence, from the fear of what could happen when you challenge power, from the burden of pretending things were fine when they weren't. She had survived the fire, and now she was ready to build something new from the ashes. Her story had shaken the system, and her next step would reshape it. If this story sparked something in you, whether it stirred anger, hope, or reflection, we want to hear it. Drop your thoughts or personal takeaways in the comments below. Your voice adds depth to the message. And if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next one. There's more truth to uncover, more voices to amplify, and we're just getting started.